I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into a spine-tingling thriller that blends mystery, supernatural intrigue, and the haunting power of tattoos. The name of the book, Tattoo Voodoo, after the ink dries. It's written by a terrific author. His name is William F. Seeds. And in the book, he takes us on a dark and twisted journey where a simple tattoo leads to tragic consequences. If you love stories filled with suspense, eerie twists, and psychological depth, this is a book you won't want to miss. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. And be sure to download the Spotlight Network TV app streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. William, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here.
This is a powerful book, your first novel, as I understand it, right?
Yes, first not first fictional. I did have a non-fictional before that, but yeah, I was really excited to get this one put on paper.
Okay, so let's set this up for the folks at home. Five longtime friends reunite in New Orleans, celebrating a birthday, and then they decide to get a tattoo. Tell us a little bit about the story.
So Tattoo Voodoo is about four friends going to New Orleans to meet a fifth friend who's happened to have a birthday. They commemorate the trip and the event by each of them getting a tattoo to memorize the situation. It wasn't something that was planned, but they spur of the moment, visiting new city, they all decide to get a tattoo, each of them.
And does that lead to the tattoo itself lead to some kind of strange consequences?
Uh, yes, they each get a tattoo of something that's personal to them, and eventually they go through experiences that were based on the tattoo that they received. So,
Exactly. Exactly. It's a great premise. How'd you come up with the idea? It's very unique, very original.
it's actually a long story. When I was in the Navy, when I was 19, I was stationed at Port Hueneme in California. There was a tattoo parlor right outside the base, and just like many of the U.S. Navy personnel, you'll get a tattoo. So we happened. It was actually my second tattoo that I received. At the time, I was dating a girl. I was away from her for a period of time while I was in the service. I decided to put her initials on my right ankle. Probably not good thinking about that later in life, but as I was doing it, even the tattoo artist mentioned, this is tattoo voodoo, right? Didn't really think about it. 6 months out of getting out of the Navy, her and I broke up, never to be seen again. And it kind of made it clear this is what tattoo voodoo was, really kind of focusing on, marking your body with something, and it's eventually going to probably happen. So, but yeah, I've carried that thought, a couple of decades, and kind of had to put the idea on paper. So
Well, at least it was only on your ankle. You didn't get like a face tattoo or something with her initials that looked like teardrops. That would have been a
right.
mistake. Because there are people, I see them online, they get like their boyfriend or girlfriend's name on their forehead. I'm like, that's probably not a good idea. But what exactly is tattoo voodoo?
So the way I kind of explain it is being kind of true to yourself about what you put on your skin. Make it more of a story of your life and things you commemorate. Not really getting, death, skull and crossbones, hate, on your skin. You might not feel that way after, later in life. Really kind of, just kind of like a tribal tattoo, and, stuff like that. I have Celtic tattoos, and it's really kind of one of those things that, what makes you. You're wearing this on your skin. People won't have to talk to you if they see your skin and that's covered in all this, hateful and death type targets. But really kind of one of those things. It's a reminder, what's going to happen later in life. Do you really want that on your skin for everybody to see?
Well, I think you got tattoos the good way. You know, you were at a naval base in the Navy. I mean, those are the guys who are supposed to get a tattoo. Um,
Right.
tattoo, did you ever think the whole tattoo movement would explode like it has? I remember growing up, I worked at a deli and there was a stripper who came in and she had a tattoo and she used to come in and buy beer like two or three times a night. And like all of us, 14-year-old boys, like, oh, look at the stripper. She's got a tattoo. You know, now people are covered in tattoos. Did you ever see this coming?
I can't say I did. I haven't received a tattoo in a couple of decades. It was kind of a phase in my life. I think a lot of people go through that phase. They get their first one, they're like, I'm going to do my whole arm, right? I think it is really kind of, are you a professional, and then you see these people that, that had that kind of lifestyle when they're younger, and then they get into a professional job. And, I work with a younger manager now. He's got, tattoos all over his hands. And they look kind of new. But I think it's kind of one of those things. It's a growing popularity. I can't say that I would have saw it coming, but I think there is an attractiveness to women and guys that have a nice selection of tattoos. When you get tattoo over tattoo, it kind of gets to be like, you're just dark arms now. You're not really seeing the seeing the art. So
Yeah, yeah. I think they become accepted now. Like I said, it used to be like taboo in a way to have a tattoo. I mean, you
right,
saw maybe sailors had them, longshoremen had them. If a woman had one, like I said, in the 1970s, we thought it was crazy that this girl had a tattoo. But now they become commonplace. Now, of course, the extreme is if somebody's got their face tattooed or something, then they're
right.
like, oh. He must have done time. Not too many people have a face tattoo. I mean, that's pushing the boundaries, I guess. That's the new taboo, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to not see, a person's face whenever you're looking at the tattoo.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Your book is set in New Orleans. It's a city rich in mysticism and history and voodoo, of course. Why did you decide to set the novel there?
Mainly for that that fact, really kind of dark arts. The book did not start out that way, the way it ends, but it was definitely the rich culture there of voodoo and the hybrid from imports from like Dominican Republic, Haiti. You kind of have that melting pot of culture there that I couldn't put it in any other place. It's not going to work in Denver or it was one of those things. Seattle doesn't have that kind of culture. But the beginning of the book kind of tells people that they're leaving from my neck of the woods to travel there. And it was really kind of I think the cultural richness that was like, it was the only city that I could think of that I could actually play this story out the way it played out.
Have you spent some time in New Orleans, or did you spend some time in New Orleans to
No, I knew you were going to ask that, sir. No, unfortunately, I did not, but I did spend a lot of time on Google Earth,
Mhm. Yeah.
looking around. I even interviewed a few friends that had had taken trips there and cruises out of there and stuff like that, and just
Yeah.
kind of get kind of references of what the city was like.
I think in some ways you were better not visiting it because what it really is just like a strip of bars. And it
Right,
really, like I've dreamt my whole life of going to, Carnival or down there. And, starting when we were like teenagers, yeah, we're going to drive down to New Orleans. We're going to go to Carnival. And I didn't go until like 5 years ago, I was filming a TV show there. And it really was just a strip of bars. All of the eerie things like the funeral parades and things like that, and the voodoo shops weren't nearly as eerie as you see them in pictures and in movies and in folklore. So, in some ways, you're able to actually create a grittier, more gripping city through your imagination of what it might be like as to what it really is. Does that make
right.
sense?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it probably would have spoiled the idea that I had, but
Yeah.
there is kind of a scene where that is what's going on. The characters are drinking, they're enjoying the nightlife, because I think that is also part of the culture there.
Yeah.
Young, mid 20s, young 20s going to, hang out in New Orleans and just bar hop basically.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think my first introduction to New Orleans was Live and Let Die. That was the first Bond film I saw. And that was set in New Orleans, at least in part, which was pretty cool. Have you envisioned this book as a film? Speaking of great settings for movies.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even from the initial first outline I did of the book, thinking to the different aspects. I got kind of toward the end, I had to go all the way back to the beginning to insert something. It was always something that was in my head. If I was seeing this on the screen, would it affect me? Would it touch my emotion, kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good buddy movie. It's a good thriller. It's got great settings. It's got great characters. So I think it has all the makings of a great movie. And you've done the hard work. You've put it out there, and hopefully it winds up in the right person's hand, and it does get made into a film. Are any of the guys you or any of the guys your buddies? Tell us a little bit about creating the characters and keeping them distinct. So 5 characters is a lot to create and keep track of.
Oh, yeah, actually, it was. I initially I had written down their names, kind of a little synopsis of each character. But there is a couple. The woman in the couple is kind of my childhood sweetheart, and the male of the couple is kind of me at a younger age. I'm kind of the main character, when it talks about the character's job and stuff like that. That was actually what I was going through at the time. The some of the characters' characteristics, I guess you'd say, were really kind of my expression of them, externally. I didn't, talk to them and be like, "What do you want your character to do?" Right?
Yeah.
But another one of the characters, he's kind of a large biker. He's actually a exact image of a friend that I have, and then another character is one of my other friends. They meet various people, and pretty much every character in that book is kind of somebody I knew at the time, and kind of still friends with, and they don't like how I wrote the end of their story, but I had to apologize that later after I gave them a copy. Hey, sorry about this. Here's your copy. But they're all kind of have personas. The woman that gives the tattoos in the book is somebody that I worked with, had kind of fond of, wrote her into the book. They're kind of just people I knew, and I kind of just took the best traits of them and kind of gave them a little bit of an understanding, kind of breathe my own little life into their story.
Yeah, absolutely. What was it like writing the book? What was it like living in that space for a while and being among these 5 guys, and the adventures they have in New Orleans?
Just like other books that I wrote, it kind of wrote itself as it kind of got started. I really just had a rough outline and a kind of a page of the people that I wanted, the persona to be, and kind of their names and a little history of them, in the book. But I think it kind of, as I got toward the end, there's a scene in the book where the character just can't go forward, and that's like me. I couldn't do that, right? There was the idea of how each of them was going to go through their course of the book.
Mhm.
Wasn't really found until about halfway through the book. It wasn't part of my summary and my outline. But after about halfway, through the book, it really started writing itself. I only had to go back a couple of times to add a few things, but how they meet their eventual demise, was kind of not really thought of when I first
Mhm.
started writing. But I actually wrote that book in less than a month.
Mhm.
Really kind of it really just fell together. It was kind of a story that just flowed, until the end. It kind of takes a sharp turn in the end. You kind of really wouldn't see that going,
Mhm.
as you started the book.
Yeah, it kind of takes on a life of its own, the characters, dialogue, the settings, the consequences. And that's part of the fun of giving life to a book, don't you think?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Are you thinking about a sequel or another novel? What's your next writing adventure?
That's actually pretty funny. My mother is a very big, fan, and just talking to her the other day, I was like, the whole basis of tattoo voodoo is based on a Christian religion and a Christian view, right?
Mhm.
There's so many religions out there that could tell their own story similar to tattoo voodoo. Would I have to, go to, like a Buddhist or, kind of mindset, how would they perceive, the whole, idea of tattoo voodoo or, an Indian, kind of religion, something like that. We all have our, the good inside, the devils and angels kind of side in each of our religions. So it was a possibility, but I was so focused on writing the other books I wrote, it kind of fell along the wayside. It's kind of coming back, especially
Mhm.
as our meeting today, kind of, is that possible? I don't know enough about other religions. I'd have to do a lot of background work.
Well, it sounds like it's a great premise for a book. So I think you're going in the right path there, no doubt. Now, you've written nonfiction before. Tell us about some of your nonfiction work.
So I have one that was my actual first book. It's coming up on its 4-year anniversary here on St. Patrick's Day this year. Um, uh, it was basically called Get Into Investing, teaching simple steps on how to invest in stocks
Mhm.
using only your smartphone. Nowadays, that powerful computer that we used to have to, have on our desktop is now in our back pocket. There's a lot of power and information in there, a lot of news. You can really immerse yourself in a lot of, social media aspects and stuff like that. But it basically is, I wrote that for my son. He's 22 now. He's, kind of getting started with, having a 401k and making,
Mhm.
saving money. So it was kind of a way to kind of give him a, basis of understanding how to invest in the stock market, and with a little bit of risk, understanding I shouldn't put all my chips on black. It has kind of a, understanding using the game blackjack. Would you put everything on black? Would you put all your money on a single bet? Kind of gives a little background in that, and then kind of long term, maintenance of your accounts and kind of tax stuff. I really tell the readers in that book, I'm not going to teach you math. There's websites for that. let the the company website that you're investing with do the math for you. You just know when to get in and get out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was a book I wrote when during 2020 when COVID was going on. During that year, I had to have reconstructive surgery of my shoulder, so I wrote that entire book with my left hand.
Huh.
So it's one of those things. I was kind of bored and I couldn't work, so it was I sit down and write a book, I guess. So
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. And investing on the phone and through these apps has really grown to tremendous popularity to the fact that they're actually even influencing the market now. Like there was the
right.
big GameStop buy and so forth, where all people online and on Reddit were buying stocks together. So it's quite an interesting phenomenon for sure.
Yes, yes. I think it was one of the things that kind of kicked off the, in the back of my mind, I have some stories to tell, right?
Yeah.
This, I wanted my son to have this knowledge, my other two children to have this knowledge, so they can kind of understand, hey, this passive income thing and building a little, net worth off of it,
Yeah.
kind of passively.
Absolutely. Great idea. So tell us about your life after the Navy. How long did you serve in the Navy? How old were you when you joined? And what that experience was like?
Just, it was a simple, parental pushing me, go, finish growing up kind of mentality.
Yeah.
My father was in the Marine Corps and, kind of pushed me into that as I got out of high school around 19. It was, I wanted to go to school, but he's like, join the service, finish growing up, then you can go to school. I just did the simple 4-year term and kind of got out and went to school.
Hmm.
Grew up, born and raised in California. After I got out of school, I ended up moving to Washington for a job. And I just kind of done a few things here in Washington, and love living in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area despite the rain. I think the rain is exaggerated, so too many people like me don't go there. Like, oh, it's awful. I say I find a nice place. I find like Maine or something. I'm like, oh, it's too cold. It's too rainy. You won't like it here. Don't come. Because
Yeah, our summers are beautiful. A couple weeks in July.
yeah, exactly, exactly. That's for sure. So when you were in the Navy, where were you stationed? Did you go anywhere cool? Did you?
No, it's funny. I did not go anywhere cool in the Navy. When people ask me about that, I tell them I was in the Navy and never set foot on a ship. I was in the Seabees, so we pretty much hung out with divisions of Marine Corps. Building their tents, things around the base, stuff like that. Didn't really get a chance to go anywhere. It was kind of a quiet time, not really peaceful. Not surely not what the men and women of the armed forces are doing today.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's a dangerous world right now. If you got in during a somewhat peaceful time, you were lucky. That's for sure. What years were you there? When did you serve?
92, 96.
92 to 96. Okay. Sounds good. Um, what's your take on casting this film? Have you thought about who would play the five guys?
Uh, no, not really. I don't keep up with, the actors and actresses and up and coming lately, but I do think, having somebody in the, mid to early 20s would be perfect. I'd leave that to the directors and, who they think would be, best fit to play the part.
Yeah. It's tough keeping up with all the actors today because there's so many venues between all the streaming channels and all the films that are out there that it seems like everybody's a star. And if it's not like Bradley Cooper or, Brad Pitt or Clint Eastwood, I don't even recognize them anymore,
Right.
or Tom Selleck or, somebody like that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Do you believe in the supernatural yourself? Do you believe in the paranormal?
Yes, I have my own stories to tell. My thinking that somebody's watching over your shoulder, or there's a guiding spirit behind you. I was raised Catholic.
Mhm.
My Catholic father, kind of used to always tell me, be careful what you say openly. Don't let that out in the universe kind of mentality, manifest negative things that way. And so I've kind of always had that mentality of, there are, spirits out there. There's definitely, bad juju, that kind of thing. So I've kind of kept that in mind, as I've moved through life, and, kind of try to keep focused on, being nice, being open and grateful for the things that I have and things that I could share with others.
Give us one of your Black Mirror experiences. Give us one of the tales of the supernatural or paranormal that you feel happened to you.
Uh, so for 6 months after writing Tattoo Voodoo, I had several bug infestations in my home.
Hmm.
I was finding spiders, and I was finding, I nonstop, no matter what I did to get rid of them, there was ants constantly in my house. And I thought I, disturbed some balance of the force there. I'm like, I wasn't supposed to do that. You did something wrong. But I called an exterminator and they got rid of it for me. But it was one of those things that was right around the release of the book. I'd been living in a new house for, brief period of time. And it was kind of, I think, just a little adjustment period, uh,
Hmm.
there wasn't anybody in the house that I moved in. So it was kind of, just having somebody in the house, I think, attracted insects from the neighboring houses and stuff like that. But yeah, I even joked with the exterminator, and he's kind of just shrugged his shoulders. All right, maybe, but didn't really take it too positive at the time. But I had people in my life that I cared a lot for pass, and I felt their aura around me still, their spirit kind of, watching me shortly after they passed. And it was a strange feeling. But yeah, just really kind of, I think it's kind of being in tune with what you think around you and what's kind of happening at the moment, kind of emotional intelligence. Am I still hearing that, still, feeling their presence kind of thing. So I've had that feeling a few times in my years, but it just seems right around the time of the release of Tattoo Voodoo, it seemed like it was more acute.
Very, very interesting. It's like you tapped into something. I mean, the bugs sound like almost like a biblical message, like
Yeah.
a bit of a mini locust plague. And the loved ones, I think most people have some feeling of connection with those who have passed, whether it's in dreams. I mean, for me, it's mostly dreams. Like I'll dream of my mother and father pretty vividly, where it feels like more than just a dream. It feels like an encounter, So
Right.
I think that's the great part about your book is that I think there is a lot of belief in more than what we see in this world. I mean, if it's limited to just what we see, it's not quite as interesting as what we imagine we might see if we could pull back the veil a little bit, don't you think?
Yes, yes, exactly. And that's the end of Tattoo Voodoo is kind of what I tried to, mimic to what I would perceive that kind of scenario. So
Exactly, exactly. And the Catholic Church has given us a lot of good things to work with. I'm Catholic also, but I interviewed someone recently about the rite of exorcism. And he said he was actually felt like he was, you know, visited by Satan, the devil, or whatever when he was writing that book. He said it was one of the most difficult things he ever did was write a book about Satan and exorcism. And I don't tend to doubt it. That's for sure. That's for
all
sure.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely understand.
Yeah, without a doubt. The name of the book we've been talking about today is called Tattoo Voodoo After the Ink Dries. In the book, William takes us on a dark and twisted journey where a simple tattoo leads to tragic consequences. If you love stories filled with suspense, eerie twists, and psychological depth, this is a book you won't want to miss. In Hollywood, if you're listening, this would be a great movie or TV series or even a series of films, no doubt. William, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me, sir.
I appreciate your time. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.